Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight. Please hit the like, favourite and subscribe if you're here for the first time. Don't ask for that often, so do me a favour. But we're going to talk about the Palace and 20 games and the hot topics at the moment, which I have talked about now for a year plus, which is Bruno Fernandes, which every other channel, every pundit seems to be cottoning onto these issues. If you go back on this channel and watch my videos from a year plus ago, I'm saying the same thing. Finally, the pundits, the media, the fan base, and the other fan channels are getting on board with this Bruno Fernandes does not fit our side at the moment, and his form is poor. His form is not poor. He has been poor for a year, 18 months. But the focus has been on Rashford and how poor he's been. Together, they are two mainstays of this side who have not performed over the last 2 to 3 seasons. And we'll get into that later. We'll get into what Erik Ten Hag has got to change, because he's on the thinnest of thin ice. As the start of this season, we've played 7 games in all competitions and won 3. It is not progression. It is terrible form, especially when we went into this season, or the majority of the fan base wanted Ten Hag to succeed. We talked about all the signings he's got, the new structure, and he's still not making it happen on the pitch after spending over £500 million. But I want to get into the Palace game, the 20 game, really quickly, as I haven't talked about them. I didn't see the Palace game in full. I had to take my daughter to Co-op Live to watch a Melanie Martinez gig, so I missed a lot of the game. I've watched highlights, watched the show, other shows about it. We played all right in the Palace game. Probably one of our best performances in a long time in the first half. But we're toothless in front of goal. Again, if you go back to my previous videos where I said we concentrated too much on the defence this summer and we didn't concentrate on enough, what really fails us, we don't score goals. We can sit here and talk about Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund, Xerxes, Bruno. The fact are, 4 of them 5 players have now been here for a season or even more than that. And we've had the same 58, 57 goals scored in the last 3 seasons. We haven't progressed in scoring goals. I don't understand quite why the focus was so on the back 4. Maybe they think we've got enough up front, but I want to talk about the spine of the team later. The Palace game, we obviously looked all right. We created some chances. We didn't score goals. Everyone said it was a decent performance. We should have won the game. Okay, fine. Sometimes games go like that. You just don't put the ball in the net. But the problem is it's not a one-off, is it? And forget the Barnsley game and forget the Southampton game. We don't score goals versus semi-competent sides in the Premier League or in Europe. The last 9 games, apparently, we haven't won in Europe, or we haven't won the last 9 games at Old Trafford, something like that, a stat I saw today, which is diabolical. United are a club built on the European Cup, the Champions League. We can't even get in it. And there's people out there saying, give Ten Hag more time. It's a restart, the new structure and all that. He's had enough time. 3 years in, we are drawing at home to FC Twente. A team who came so far down the Dutch league that they're not in the Champions League. They're at best a championship side. And we cannot get over the line versus them. We're drawing versus Crystal Palace, who people are bigging up because they beat us 4-0 last year and all that lot. They are not a good side. They haven't won a game all season in the league, and we're drawing 0-0 with them. The fan base gets hyped because we beat Barnsley 7-0. It's pathetic. And that is all I've got to say about them 2 games, really. You can think there's progression. You can think there's now a style of play. We do look a bit more solid at the back, but it don't matter if he's solid at the back when he can't score. The results are the same. the results are the same as they have been for the last couple of years under Ten Hag. And what are they? Not good enough. So I want to get on to Bruno because that's the hot topic at the moment. Like I say, you can go back over my last 10 videos and hear me rant about Bruno Fernandes. A few points on him. Number one, when was the last time he turned up in a big game and made a difference? And people say the FA Cup final. It's a one-off game, the FA Cup final. A one-off big game. Anyone gets up for that game. I'm talking about in the league. People say, oh yeah, I remember when he scored that volley against Burnley and got us at... It's Burnley that got relegated. And he did one thing in that game, score that volley. When was the last time Bruno, as Man United captain, got hold of a game and dictated it? I cannot even tell you the last time it happened. It was years ago. Years and years and years ago. If you go back through the statistics of Bruno Fernandes' stats at Man United, he's been on a decline since he got to us. His first couple of seasons, he was very good for us. But like a lot of other fans said from other clubs, and even a lot of Man United, they used to call him Penandes because a lot of his goals came from penalties. But we'll forget about that long ago because we're talking about the now. The last couple of years, he has not performed in a Man United shirt. Point two, and well, I'm not even going to go on to points. I'll just talk about it again. His basic passing, 5 to 10 yard passing, is woeful. It's terrible. From me to 5 to 10 yards away, his passing is so bad. It's a yard away from players' feet. They have to adjust. It's sloppy. It's unconcentrated. His set pieces, corners, free kicks, never beat the wall, the first man. I'm so glad this season we seem to have gone to short corners because I was sick to the back teeth of Bruno hitting the first man on corners. It was doing my head in. And probably the biggest one with Bruno, if you want to let him off giving the ball away all the time, is positionally. And people will say this is Erik Ten Hag. But he's too far forward all the time. He presses beyond the striker on his own, leaves gaps in midfield. He is all over the place, and running working hard is not something we should be praising at Man United as a sole thing. We've binned off other players from the club like Fred, McTominay, who love the club and work their arses off in games and they're not good enough. Why is it any different for Fernandes? Running around without a purpose is not enough. And I'm not here to say Bruno doesn't love the club and he doesn't work hard, because I think both of them things he does do. But the quality is not there. The quality's there in a moment, a one or two things that he does every 3 or 4 games. Like everyone's saying, oh, he come on against Barnsley and he got 2 assists. Of course he did. It's a League One team. He could go on there and do that all day. I want to see him do it versus Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Spurs, Villa. But where is he in them games? He's not there. And I've said this again about Bruno. When Maguire was captain, doing the things Bruno's doing, he got slated for it. And I'm not a Maguire fan either. He shouldn't be playing for United either. But why do we treat Bruno differently to every other player just because he was good 5 years ago for us? Just because he runs around a lot? Like I say, McTominay run around a lot and got slaughtered for it, not keeping the ball. Bruno runs around a lot and doesn't keep the ball. The stats are there on paper that he's 8 assists last year, 6 assists the year before, and I think 8 assists the year before that. The stats are not as good as you think they are. And running stats does not count unless you're running with a purpose. Because like I've already mentioned 2 or 3 times now, people like McTominay, Fred and others over the years have run hard for the team, and we've said that they're not good enough and we need to get rid of them. And this is an agenda that's come around over the last couple of weeks because we've got Xerxes, who's fell into that 10 role and kept the ball and linked play better than Bruno ever has. And people are saying Xerxes can play in the 10. He can, but he's not a 10 that will take us to any sort of trophy, any major trophy. He's somebody who's doing a job that Bruno should be doing better than Bruno. But the reality of it is, Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, Odegaard, Musiala, all those players are proper 10s. Creative 10s that play the ball and keep the ball and take risks when you need to take risks. Bruno takes risks all the time. Every time he gets the ball, he takes a risk. The proper top class 10s take the risk when the risk is there to be taken. And I don't want to dwell on Bruno forever, because if you want to hear me talk about Bruno, you can go back to every other video I've made on this channel for the last year, and I will be saying the same things. I just wanted to say it on this video because it's the hot topic at the moment around Bruno Fernandes and whether he should be in or out the team. And finally, the fan base, the other fan channels and the media are coming round to what a lot of fans have been saying about Bruno, who are not brainwashed by statistics. Watch the game with your eyes and you'll see all these things. People defend him with stats. Stats are not everything. It's a 90-plus minute game. One or two things a game isn't enough, is all I can say with Bruno Fernandes. And going on to other players, I want to talk about the core of the team. And players that have been there for too long and who are still starters or in and around major game time in the first team, which includes Fernandes, Rashford, Shaw, Maguire. These are all players are in and around the dressing room. Obviously, Bruno's the captain. Rashford is never dropped and he's clearly an Eric Ten Hag mega favourite. You've got Maguire still in the dressing room, who used to be the captain, who's the third choice centre-back at the moment. So he still has a huge influence on the side. And you've got Luke Shaw, who the fan base, the manager, the club and everyone else seems to think that when he's back, it changes us. United, I don't think we progress as a side until Rashford, Bruno, Shaw and Maguire are all gone. They're the spine of a team that have been here for 5-6 years. They've been in and around the starting lineup for 5 or 6 years, and we've had nothing but failure with them there. Does that... It's an ongoing issue with the same group of players, and we said this when Ten Hag was failing and when Ollie was failing. We need rid of the deadwood. But these 4 players, apart from maybe Maguire, some people would say are deadwood. I would class Rashford, Bruno, Shaw and Maguire as deadwood. Why, as Man United, do we hold on to players that the fan base and the club think are good enough for too long? The facts are the top sides get rid of these players. We haven't won anything substantial with them now for 5, 6, 7 years. Shaw's been here for 10 plus years and we still haven't won anything with him major. He's injured all the time. Teams like City, Arsenal, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, these players would not still be there because they would be like, we've won nothing with them. They're earning massive money on massive wages and massive contracts and they're not performing. But for some reason, us as a United fan base and United as a club still see these players as the core of our team. Rashford, Bruno, Maguire and Shaw are all players that we will never progress with. We've been through 4, 5, 6 managers now with those players in the team and with the same effect. And we've blamed the lesser players like the McTominays, the Freds, the Dan Jameses over the past. that have come in who are not the highest of high profile players. The problem is the standard is set by Bruno and Rashford and Shaw and Maguire as they were captain and mainstays of the side. Their standards are not high enough. We have to get rid of those players and replace them with people with higher standards. And the only thing I've got to say on this matter of fact is that we have youth coming through who look promising. And hopefully we can get rid of those players over the next year or two, and the youth come through, and with the buys that we're buying, they set a new standard at the club, which isn't Europa League. The standard has to be Champions League and challenging for the title. And under the current leadership, Erik ten Hag, Bruno, Maguire, Shaw and Rashford, they're what I class as the 5 people in and around that dressing room that are setting the standards. The standards are not high enough. If it was up to me, and in the next couple of games, if Erik ten Hag doesn't win every game between now and the international break, sack him. And for the summer, those 4 players will be the first on the chopping block. And I said it last summer, the first players I would get out the door were Rashford, Shaw and Bruno. Even before Maguire. Maguire's a third choice centre-back. He's not playing week in, week out anymore. I've said it now for way over a year. While Rashford and Bruno are still in that side, will be a hit and hope counter team that have no structure. And Erik ten Hag, clearly is not the man to take us forward. I've got another video on the channel why Erik ten Hag should have been sacked. I've got another video about Luke Shaw and why he's not as good as people think he is. The problem is the standards have gone from up here to down here. And we think Bruno and Rashford are the standard. They're not. Kevin De Bruyne, Odegaard, Haaland, Foden are the standards. Mbappe's the standard. Vinny Jr. is the standard we should be at. And people say we're not there. Well, we should be there. The standard is up here. The fan base allows us to get away with a standard that is down here. We need to adjust our expectation as a fan base and put it back to the top, where results like we're having at the moment and results like we had last season are not acceptable by the club as a whole. Not just ten Hag, not just the players we currently have, but the senior players and ten Hag take the most responsibility for the disastrous results we've had over the last 18 months. And those are the players that need the chop, and the manager needs to go with them. And yes, it's another negative, passionate video, and I do apologise about it, but there's very little positive to take. People try and take positives out of Barnsley and Southampton, and positives how we are changing our style of play. But how can you be positive about these things when any time any adversity comes around with this club, they all bottle it and don't get the result we want? We'll definitely go into that Spurs game, and because we've had 2 poor results, we'll win it, and everyone will get back on the train we was on before, after Southampton and Barnsley, that we've turned up again. This team have got it in them. It doesn't matter, because in another game or 2's time after Spurs, we will be back to this crap again. It's the consistency. These players and this manager do not have a way to stay consistent, and the need to be changed. Erik ten Hag, Rashford, Bruno, Shaw and Maguire, to me, are the 5 most senior people around that football club in the dressing room, and all 5 need to go. And the sooner they do, the better we will be for it. And I'm going to leave you there before I carry on ranting even more. Please like, favourite and subscribe. I know this is a completely, utterly negative video, but these things need to be said about Man United at the moment, because we went into this season with hope, and we're going back to the same old crap again and again and again. Thank you. Like, favourite and subscribe. And peace.